Hi everyone, my name is Nitesh Arora. I'm a managing director with Deloitte Consulting in their cloud infrastructure practice, where we help our clients transform their legacy systems over to cloud platforms. I've been in the industry for 21 years and I specialize in deploying, implementing, and running SAP operations and SAP systems over to cloud platforms. I have the pleasure of being here today with Deepak Guruswami and been working with him on his transformation journey and his team for over 2+ years. Deepak, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you for having me. My name is Deepak Guruswami. I lead the Core Enterprise Systems SRE for Alphabet. My background is in system administration and reliability engineering, and I have about 18 years of experience in this space. My team is responsible for running the ERP suite of services for Alphabet. This includes SAP and a set of auxiliary services that go along with SAP.
Thanks, Deepak. This is certainly an exciting time for Alphabet, and I'm pleased to be partnering with you on this transformation journey. Today, we're going to talk about site reliability engineering, or SRE for short, and as some may call it, a run state or the operate phase. But before we get into the SRE as a function, I would love for you to share some history and background with the audience.
Absolutely. Google has seen tremendous growth in the last 15 years. We have a more diversified product portfolio, 5x more employees, and we're operating in more countries than ever before. All of this has resulted in significant business complexity, and we were still relying on the same ERP from 15 years ago. We realized very quickly, in order to support Alphabet's growth, we needed to do a full ground-up transformation of Alphabet's ERP suite.
Migrating and then running SAP on a cloud platform requires a shift in thinking about IT operations, especially now that SAP environment has moved from legacy infrastructure to now cloud infrastructure. Today, we're going to talk about 3 different challenges, namely asset provisioning and management of assets on cloud, 2, maintaining reliability of service, and lastly, continuous improvement for bringing operational efficiencies to lowering TCO. Our recommended approach is rethinking IT for cloud. And this is where we help our partners redefine and create a tailored run state maturity roadmap, considering business complexity, cost, risk, and other factors to help with their transformation journey for them to be successful. So let's get into the SRE functions and talk about how we geared for this transformation.
When we started this transformation, my team was predominantly supporting Oracle on-prem data centers. Given the program's ambitious timelines and the fact that we were going to run SAP on GCP, this was a significant shift for us. We want to make sure that we're doing this in a careful manner so as to not overwhelm our team, at the same time be able to deliver value for our business. So we built a long-term strategy, a 3-phase roadmap spread over 5 years to accomplish this. The first phase of this strategy is the build phase. Essentially, this is the delivery of the transformation program. What this really meant for us was we had to scale up very quickly and deliver a whole bunch of environments. Being on GCP helped tremendously because we were able to leverage infrastructure as code tooling like Terraform, Ansible, Puppet to be able to build these environments in the order of weeks. The second phase of this strategy is the mature phase. As part of the build phase, given the compressed timelines, we had to take on a certain amount of tech debt. We wanted to incorporate a very intentional phase that focused on improving the maturity of our service so we can pay back some of this tech debt. We focused on things like adopting cloud monitoring for improving our monitoring coverage. We reduced single points of failure by adopting file store over our homegrown NFS solution, and finally improved the security posture with VPC, SE, and microsegmentation. And the final stage of the strategy is the Excel phase. Now, this is more of an aspirational goal for us. Our intention is to be the reference example for any enterprise customer wanting to run their SAP workloads on GCP. Some of the topics we want to explore in this phase are containerization, auto-scaling, and near zero downtime.
We talked about why rethinking IT for cloud is so important. One of the critical elements for a successful and a great roadmap is early engagement with business. Not only during the initial migration, but also being in lockstep with them during each rollout so that we are ahead of the curve And what this helps with the SRE group is that they're not caught by surprises of core performance issues or bottlenecks caused because of the infrastructure changes that may be coming in. Walk us through how SRE team engages with the business and the functional owners in this transformation journey.
Engaging with your customers is one of the most important elements of a successful SRE practice. We realized customer empathy is actually a very important element of this engagement model. What empathy allows you to do is actually build a true partnership with your business, so your goals are aligned and you're able to execute seamlessly. So as an example, during the transformation program, we plugged ourselves in to the functional design of the service early on, so we can incorporate the reliability and operational efficiency elements right into the early design of the service. This also allowed us to effectively translate those business requirements into infrastructure that works for our partners. It also allowed us actually to reduce outages because we were in all of the early phases. As an example, there was an API that was on S4HANA, and we realized early on during the design phase that this was just not going to scale. So we made a conscious decision to move that API to Spanner, which has a higher level of scalability. Of course, there are trade-offs, but a higher level of scalability, and ultimately allowed us to be more successful in that particular milestone launch.
So operational shifts are never easy. One of the key elements is that these services provided by the SRE group need to be well understood by its many consumer groups. It does require quite a bit of training and enablement by the functional liaisons so that they understand the catalog of services. Another important aspect is setting boundaries so that the service level objectives are met and the reliability of service is maintained. So Deepak, let's get into how the SRE function stayed on top of the game here.
Speaking of reliability is a relative term, and it's important for every enterprise to define what that means for them. And that's really where SLOs come in, right? Service level objectives, or SLOs. A well-defined SLO is an objective measure of the reliability of service. It is important to define this metric carefully because you can never have a service that's 100% available. There's always trade-offs. Typically, higher the SLO, higher the cost to run and maintain that service. Once you have a well-defined SLO, this should feed in to your service design. Understanding what your SLO needs to be will dictate how much of redundancy and reliability elements you want to build into your service design and infrastructure. Another interesting concept here is rather than paging on system up or down, paging on SLOs means that your on-call teams are not constantly getting paged in the middle of the night for every blip with that service. The final aspect is a robust incident management process that focuses on service restoration, not root causing when you're in the middle of an incident. This should be followed by a rigorous post-mortem process that allows you to really get to the root cause of each of these incidents. This is where methodologies like 5 whys come into play, right? You ask the same question 5 times so you can get to the right root cause. Because what might seem at the beginning to be a potential root cause of the problem really ends up being the symptom of the real root cause.
So operational maturity and efficiency, or operate to innovate as we call it in Deloitte, is one of the key focus areas for an ever-evolving IT footprint. As the cloud technology is changing, we believe so should our operations keep on evolving. Early on, when we started doing refreshes, it used to take us 60 hours plus to complete an environment refresh. And nowadays, it takes less than 30 hours, even though the environment has grown. We have considerably reduced our incidents over the past few years while the landscape is growing and expanding in size. So let's drill deeper into operational efficiencies that we've brought about while touching the 3 different dimensions of people, process, and technology.
Let me start with the most important pillar of all, people. When we started this transformation journey, our goal was to build sustainable, healthy, happy orgs, of course, with solid SAP skill set. We build a site strategy with teams based in North America, so we have proximity to our business partners, and teams based in Germany, which allowed us access to a larger talent pool for SAP. You also want to make sure that you have the right SI partner to come along with you on the journey, because that allowed us to pivot our FTE engineers that were more focused on Oracle to learn SAP while we were still able to deliver value for our business. Moving on to the next pillar of process. Right. Apart from making sure that we improved things like incident management, change release management, and so on, one of the most important things we did was also what we call as production excellence reviews. The focus of this review is to make sure that important service metrics like your SLOs, your on-call load, stay on the green side, because these are really also not just important for the service, but also important to make sure your teams are happy and healthy, right, by having the right sort of work-life balance with pager loads and so on. The final element, moving on to speaking of technology, SREs have a fairly strict policy which states that no more than 50% of an SRE's time would be spent on doing toilsome or manual work. What this meant for us from the get-go was we had to focus on automating your typical toilsome tasks that go along with running an SAP ecosystem. So to give you some examples, we were able to automate the provisioning of an SAP environment, which reduced the time by roughly 50%. Right, so from like an order of month to order of weeks. We were able to reduce refreshes similarly by another 50%, right, bringing it down to a few days from where it was like a week and a half or so. We also invested a significant amount of time in automating things like password rotations, right, certificate rotations, service stop starts, right, all of the typical toilsome tasks that you would normally see as part of like running an SAP ecosystem.
And so one of the elements of our operational efficiency has been not just looking at the technology stack, but also the process stack on top of it, and bringing it all together with our quarterly reviews to keep on improving and taking the feedback from the business liaisons, from your team, and bringing it together and bringing changes as we see necessary. Let's hear some closing remarks and what lies ahead.
As we look ahead, I'm really excited about this journey. I feel like we've only scratched the surface of what we can accomplish with our SAP implementation. Like I stated earlier, our goal is to be the reference example for any enterprise customer looking to run their SAP workloads on GCP. And we want to do this by incorporating the best principles from GCP and SRE into our platform. I'd like to leave our audience with 3 key takeaways. Number 1, rethink your IT operations for cloud. Try and adopt as much of the cloud native tooling and processes when you're designing your service. Build a clear vision and a roadmap for your service. Define your journey and make sure you have the right SI partner to help you with this journey and to help you accomplish the goals of your vision and strategy. Finally, to reiterate, bring elements of empathy when you're engaging with your business partners. Build elements of reliability into your service design and set clear expectations of what reliability means to you and your business.
So now all of this may sound overwhelming, but this is exactly where we can come in and redefine your IT operations and create a tailored roadmap for your organization based on your business and technology needs, and create an SRE function that is future state ready and forward looking. Thank you, Deepak, for being with us here today and sharing Alphabet's transformation journey.
Thank you for having me.